Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into the really energetic world of flag football.
Yeah, it's definitely buzzing right now.
It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's a sport that's, been picking up speed, and with its debut at the LA 28 Olympics, basically just around the corner,
Right.
we figured it's the perfect time to really get a solid grasp on what makes this game so popular and, well, why its Olympic inclusion is such a big deal.
Mhm.
Think of this as your fast track to understanding flag football, kind of inside and out.
It truly is a significant moment. I mean, that International Olympic Committee announcement back in October 2023,
Yeah.
confirming both men's and women's flag football for the LA 28 games, that was a real game
It
changer.
really felt like it.
It just instantly elevated the sport onto this global platform like never before.
You could really feel that momentum building, especially with that lighted up handover spot.
Oh, yeah, with Jalen Hurts.
Seeing him, an NFL quarterback and a global ambassador for the sport, light the LA Coliseum torch with that flaming football, it just sent such a powerful message, didn't it?
Absolutely. Flag football has arrived on the Olympic stage. That moment was, well, part of this larger vision, right? Vision 28, they call it.
Right, Vision 28.
It's a collaboration between the NFL and the International Federation of American Football, IFAF.
Okay.
And the goal is clear: grow flag football worldwide, leading up to the LA Games.
And it's not like this is starting from zero, is it? I mean, the player base is already quite large.
Not at all. We're talking about a global community of, estimates are around 20 million players.
Wow, 20 million.
Yeah, spread across more than 100 countries, 6 continents. So that's a pretty substantial base to build on.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And what's particularly interesting, I think, is the way the sport is played. It's quick, it's dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
and crucially, it's non-contact. And it offers equal opportunities for all genders.
That gender equality piece seems really significant.
It is. It's a game that's just welcoming to people of all ages, all backgrounds, and the surge in participation among women and girls. That's been particularly impressive to watch.
Okay, so for anyone listening who might be picturing something really close to traditional American football, let's maybe clarify. What is flag football at its core?
Well, fundamentally, it is a version of American football.
Yeah.
But there's one key twist.
Just flags, right?
Exactly. Instead of physical tackling, players wear flags. Usually they're attached to a belt, and a tackle happens when a defender successfully pulls off one of those flags from the person carrying the ball.
So no need for all the heavy pads and helmets like in tackle football.
Precisely. That non-contact aspect is absolutely central to the game. Things we associate with traditional football, like, tackling, diving into players, blocking where you make physical contact.
Screening, fumbles.
Right. Screening that involves hitting, even fumbles where there's a big scramble for the ball. All of that is prohibited.
Which makes perfect sense when you think about why it's getting so popular, especially with younger athletes or anyone prioritizing safety.
You've hit on a key point there. That emphasis on safety is, without doubt, a major driver behind its growing appeal, really at every level.
Okay, now let's dive into how a typical game actually plays out. What are the sort of basic rules and gameplay elements we should know?
So in the most common format, like the NFL flag format you see a lot, you'll typically have 6 players on each team.
6-on-6, okay.
Games are split into 2 halves. The length of those halves can vary a bit, usually depending on the age group playing.
And the clock, does it stop often?
Not really. That's part of the speed.
Yeah.
The game clock really only stops for halftime. When a team uses one of their timeouts, they get 1 per half.
1 per half, okay.
Or obviously, if there's an injury, it helps keep the game flowing, keeps the pace up.
And how does play actually start? No kickoffs, you said.
No kickoffs. It all begins with a simple coin toss. The team that wins the toss and chooses to receive starts their possession, their drive, on their own 5-yard line.
From the 5-yard line. And they get 4 downs.
4 downs or attempts to advance the ball past the midfield line. If they do that, they earn a first down and another set of 4 downs.
What happens if they, get to 3rd down and haven't crossed midfield yet? What are the options on 4th down?
Right, so if they haven't made it across midfield after 3 downs, they face a decision. They can choose to punt.
Which isn't a real punt, I assume.
No, not a physical kick. In flag football, punting just means they turn the ball over. The other team then starts their drive from their own 5-yard line.
Okay, a guaranteed field position swap.
Pretty much. The other option is to go for it on 4th down. Try to get that first down.
Risky.
Can be. If they fail, the opposing team takes over the ball right there at the exact spot where the play ended, so potentially much better field position for the defense.
Got it. Now let's talk points. How do you score?
Okay, scoring. A touchdown is worth 6 points, same as tackle football.
100?
Then there's a safety, which is worth 2 points for the defense. A safety happens if a ball carrier is downed inside their own end zone in a few specific ways, like having their flag pulled in the end zone, or if their flag just falls off in the end zone, or if their knee or arm touches the ground while holding the ball in their end zone.
Or even the snap.
Yeah, even if a snapped ball lands or is caught in the end zone before it comes out, that's a safety too.
2 points for the defense.
Okay.
And after a touchdown. Extra points.
Yes. After a touchdown, the scoring team gets a choice for a conversion. They can go for 1 point, trying to get the ball into the end zone from the 5-yard line.
Run or pass.
Either run or pass. Or they can opt for a 2-point conversion attempt, which starts further back from the 10-yard line.
So a bit more risk for more reward.
Exactly. Oh, and there's an interesting mercy rule sometimes. If a team gets ahead by 28 points or more, they often stop keeping the official score, though the game usually continues.
Huh? 28 points.
Interesting.
Okay, what about some fundamental rules for moving the ball?
Yeah.
Running, passing, any key restrictions?
Definitely. When running with the ball, a player absolutely cannot leave their feet to avoid a defender pulling their flag. So no leaping over players, no diving forward. Feet stay on the ground.
Keeps it non-contact.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the only way to hand the ball off is a direct handoff. No laterals, no pitches sideways or backward.
Okay, and the quarterback. Can they run?
The quarterback cannot run the ball past the line of scrimmage unless they have first handed it off to another player.
Okay.
They can scramble around behind the line of scrimmage, that's fine, it doesn't count as a run. But once a legal handoff happens...
Then things change.
Yes. Once there's a handoff, any defender can rush the player who now has the ball. And importantly, the player who received the handoff can then choose to throw the ball, provided they're still behind the line of scrimmage.
Ah, so that opens up some trick play potential like halfback passes.
Exactly. It adds a layer of offensive strategy. Now, for passing rules, all passes have to be thrown forward.
Forward passes only.
And they must be caught by a receiver who is beyond the original line of scrimmage. Shovel passes, those short forward flips are allowed, but again, they have to be received beyond the line.
Okay. And is there a time limit for the QB to throw?
Yes. There's typically a 7-second pass clock. The quarterback has 7 seconds from the snap to release the ball. If they don't, it's often treated like a sack.
7 seconds. Got it.
Yeah.
Any other specific play types that are off limits?
Center sneak plays are generally prohibited, where the QB takes a quick snap and tries to dive forward immediately.
It prevents those messy pileups at the line.
Exactly. And a big one, no fumbles. If a player drops the ball, it's not a live ball.
So no frantic scrambles for possession?
None. The play is immediately dead. The offensive team keeps the ball, and it's just spotted where the ball carrier's feet were when they lost possession.
That simplifies things and keeps it safer.
It does. The play also stops instantly when a flag is pulled, if the carrier steps out of bounds, obviously when a score happens, if the carrier's knee hits the ground, or even if a flag just falls off accidentally.
And you can't protect your flags.
No, that's called flag guarding, and it's illegal. You can't use your hands or arms or bend over specifically to prevent a defender from pulling your flag. That's a penalty.
Okay. I've heard about something called no-run zones. What are those about?
Yes. No-run zones are specific areas on the field, usually within 5 yards of each end zone, and also 5 yards on either side of the midfield line.
So near the goal lines and midfield.
Right. When the ball is snapped from inside one of these zones, the offense must use a pass play. They can't just run the ball.
That is that.
It's mainly to encourage passing in short yardage situations, and again, to limit the potential for physical contact that might happen if teams were just trying to power the ball forward a short distance.
Makes sense. Now, flipping to the defense, how do they pressure the quarterback? Is it a free-for-all rush?
No, there are rules for rushing the passer, too. Defenders who want to rush the quarterback have to start at least 7 yards back from the line of scrimmage at the moment the ball is snapped.
7 yards back. Okay.
That 7-yard rule doesn't apply after a handoff, though. Once the ball is handed off, anyone can rush.
Gotcha. And if they get to the QB behind the line?
If a defender pulls the quarterback's flag while the QB is still behind the line of scrimmage, that's a sack. Play stops. Loss of down.
Is rushing always allowed?
Good question. At the very youngest levels, like kindergarten through 3rd grade, Often rushing the passer isn't allowed at all, just to keep it simpler and focused on flag pulling.
Okay. And what about interceptions? That must be a big momentum shift.
Huge. It's a turnover, of course, but the rule is slightly different from other turnovers. If a pass is intercepted,
Yeah.
the play stops immediately. The team that intercepted the ball gains possession right there at the exact spot of the interception.
Ah, so they don't get to run it back for a touchdown.
Generally, no. Play stops. And importantly, this is the only change of possession that doesn't automatically start the new drive on the team's own 5-yard line. They start where the pick happened.
Interesting distinction. Okay, I think we've got a pretty good handle on the basic flow and rules now. Let's shift gears slightly. Who is actually playing this sport? You mentioned its inclusivity earlier.
Absolutely. And flag football really delivers on that promise. It is genuinely a sport enjoyed by people of, well, all ages and all genders.
That seems to be a recurring theme.
It is, because it's true. Its non-contact nature and inherent accessibility just make it appealing to such a remarkably wide range of people.
And you highlighted the growth among women and girls specifically.
Yes, that's a major part of the story right now. We're seeing a really significant ongoing increase in the number of female players.
Why do you think that is?
Well, they seem drawn to the fast pace, the strategic side of it, and definitely the opportunity to compete on an equal footing. And like we said, with estimates around 20 million players globally, a huge chunk of that growth is being fueled by women and girls discovering and embracing the game. It's fantastic to see.
So if you were watching a game, say a typical 5-on-5 match, what kinds of player roles or positions would you see out there? Are they similar to tackle football?
Some of the names might sound familiar, yes, if you know American football, but the roles can be a bit different, especially since in common formats like 5-on-5, you usually don't have dedicated offensive or defensive linemen in the same way.
Okay, let's break that down. Starting with the offense in 5-on-5, who are the key players?
All right, on offense, you'll always have a quarterback. Their main job, receive the snap, then either pass it or hand it off. Remember, they can't run it themselves past the line after the snap.
Got it. QB. Who else?
Then you have the center. The center snaps the ball to the QB, but then, importantly, they immediately become an eligible receiver. They can run a route just like anyone else.
So the center isn't just a blocker.
Not at all. Then you'll have one or more wide receivers. Their job is pretty straightforward. Run routes, get open, catch passes.
How many usually?
A team might field 3 dedicated receivers. Or they might go with 2 receivers and add a running back into the formation.
And the running back's role.
The running back primarily takes handoffs and runs with the ball. But they're also allowed to throw the ball, remember the halfback pass option.
Right.
And they can also go out and catch passes themselves. So quite versatile.
Okay, that's the offense. What about the defensive lineup in 5-on-5?
On defense, you'll usually see defensive backs or DBs. Their main job is covering the wide receivers.
Man-to-man or zone?
They can do either play man-to-man, where each DB sticks to a specific receiver, or play zone defense, where each DB is responsible for covering a certain area of the field.
Okay. DBs. Who else?
There's usually a safety. The safety plays deeper, further back than the DBs. They're kind of the last line of defense.
Do they stop the long plays?
Exactly. They try to stop anyone who gets past the initial defenders and are crucial for covering deep passes. And finally, you have the rusher.
The one who goes after the QB.
That's the one. Their main goal is to pressure the quarterback, try to disrupt the pass, maybe get that flagpole for a sack. But remember,
The 7-yard rule.
they have to start 7 yards off the line of scrimmage before the snap. That's key.
You also mentioned 7-on-7 formats sometimes. How did the positions change with more players?
Right. In 7-on-7, things get a bit more specialized. On offense, you often see one of the extra players act sort of like a lineman.
But still non-contact, right?
Absolutely non-contact. Their main job isn't really blocking in the traditional sense, but more about positioning themselves legally to impede the path of the defensive rusher, just to give the QB a fraction more time.
Okay, a bit of protection. And the other extra player.
The other additional offensive player usually becomes another wide receiver. So now the QB has 4 potential targets to throw to on any given pass play.
More options. And defensively in 7-on-7.
On defense, the extra players might allow for linebackers. They'd position themselves behind the initial rusher or rushers, providing extra coverage over the middle of the field, helping against both potential runs from handoffs and those shorter passes, adds another layer to the defensive scheme.
It sounds like even without tackling, there's a ton of strategy involved.
Oh, absolutely. You don't have the brute force element in the same way, so the non-contact nature really forces a focus on different skills.
Like speed and agility.
Exactly. Speed, agility, quickness, precision. Those become paramount. On offense, it's all about sharp route running, making clean catches under pressure, and of course, having a quarterback who can throw accurately.
And defensively,
Yeah.
what are the key tactics there?
Well, obviously, mastering the technique of pulling the flag efficiently is crucial. It's harder than it looks.
I bet.
Beyond that, understanding angles of pursuit, how to cut off the ball carrier, and then the strategic use of man-to-man versus zone coverage. Trying to confuse the QB, limit passing windows, prevent those big gains.
So coaches have a lot to teach.
Definitely. They usually start with the basics, throwing, catching, flag pulling, basic routes, and then gradually introduce more complex plays, formations, and defensive schemes as players get more comfortable and skilled. There's a real art to it.
Now, for people who get really into flag football, maybe they're playing in leagues or just love watching high-level competition, what are the main events, the big tournaments?
Well, at the youth level here in the U.S., the NFL Flag Championships are a huge deal. It's like the Super Bowl for youth flag football. Draws top teams from all over, even internationally sometimes.
Okay. And on the international stage?
The absolute pinnacle is the IFAF World Flag Football Championships. That's where the best national teams from around the globe compete. And the next one coming up in Lahti, Finland in August 2024.
Yeah.
It's expected to be the biggest one ever. Something like 32 nations are signed up to participate.
Yeah.
That just shows you the global growth.
32 nations. Wow. That really is growing.
It is. And you even see it integrated into pro events now, like the NFL's Pro Bowl games. They have their stars playing a flag football game, which brings a lot of eyes to it.
Right. I saw that.
Beyond those really high-profile ones, there are lots of other serious international tournaments, too. Things like the Caribbean International Tournament down in Cancun, the Big Bowl over in Germany. These attract really dedicated players.
And domestically, within the U.S.
Yeah, besides the NFL flag program, you have other highly competitive amateur tournaments. The USFTL, that's the United States Flag and Touch Football League, their national championships are a big one. And there are regional tournaments like the Roswell Hike It and Spike It in Georgia, known for really high-level 4-on-4 play. So lots of places for serious competition.
Are there specific players who are becoming sort of the faces of the sport? You mentioned Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts being a global flag football ambassador is definitely huge for visibility. He brings that NFL star power.
For sure. Anyone else?
Diana Flores is another name you should absolutely know. She's a World Games gold medalist for Mexico in flag football, a phenomenal athlete.
Okay.
And she's also the chair of the IFAF Athletes Committee. So she's a major voice and a real inspiration within the flag football world.
It seems like with the Pro Bowl exposure, and especially the Olympics coming up, we're bound to see more individual stars emerge.
I think that's inevitable. As the sport gets more TV time and bigger stages, you'll start recognizing the top players and maybe even have favorite national teams to follow. It's an exciting time for player profiles.
So who are the main organizations pulling the strings, governing the sport, and pushing its growth?
Okay, globally, the key governing body is the International Federation of American Football, IFAF. They oversee the international competitions, the rules, that sort of thing.
IFAF. Got it.
Within the United States, the national governing body is USA Football. They work closely with IFAF and also significantly with the NFL.
And that's where Vision 28 comes in again.
Exactly. That Vision 28 partnership between the NFL and IFAF is really the engine driving a lot of the current global push, especially towards the LA Olympics. And then at the grassroots level, you can't overlook NFL Flag.
Right, the league program.
Yeah, it's massive for accessibility. It provides structured leagues and opportunities for kids and adults all over the place to just get involved and play. Their website, nflflag.com, is a great resource if you're looking for a league.
So if we step back and look at the bigger picture, what kind of wider cultural impact is flag football having beyond just being a sport people play?
Oh, I think the Olympic inclusion itself is huge culturally. It marks this massive step in recognizing flag football as a, legitimate, serious global sport, not just a backyard game anymore.
It gives it that stamp of approval.
Exactly. And we talked about gender equality. It's playing a really important role there, too. With mixed gender formats being common and the huge growth in female participation, it's actively promoting equality in sports.
That's a powerful impact.
It really is. Plus, just its sheer accessibility. It has the potential to broaden participation in football-related activities overall. People who might be hesitant about the physical contact of tackle football might find flag football is their way into the game.
It's kind of fascinating, isn't it, how this non-contact version of such a traditionally physical game has carved out its own space and is now really taking off.
It really is. The evolution from tackle football to this format, it's partly driven by those safety concerns we mentioned, sure, but also by this desire to make the game more inclusive, more accessible.
It wasn't always seen as serious as sport, maybe.
Perhaps not in the mainstream. Flag football existed for decades, often as a more recreational or informal version. But now it's undeniably stepping into the spotlight, gaining that mainstream recognition, and really establishing its own distinct identity.
And the style of play is different too, right?
Completely. The non-contact rule forces strategic adaptations. It leads to this different style of play that really emphasizes speed, agility, passing accuracy, and tactical thinking over just brute force. It's a really interesting evolution in the broader story of football.
Well, this has truly been a fascinating deep dive
Yeah.
into the world of flag football. It's pretty clear that its accessibility, the non-contact aspect, its growing global footprint, and of course that landmark inclusion in the LA 28 Olympics.
Yeah.
It all adds up. It
Mm.
makes it a really compelling, fast-paced, and engaging way to experience the spirit of football.
Absolutely. And maybe it leaves us with a provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider.
Okay.
With flag football rising so quickly and now heading to the Olympics, could this more accessible version actually start to shape the future of football more broadly, globally?
Interesting. You mean influence tackle football too?
Potentially. Could it influence how the sport is played, how it's perceived, maybe even participation trends at all levels in the years to come? Something to think about.
Yeah. Definitely a fascinating question to ponder as we watch it grow. If you're intrigued by all this and want to learn more or even find a way to play,
Check out those websites.
yeah, definitely check out the NFL Flag website and the International Federation of American Football, the IFAF. You might just find your new favorite sport to get involved with.
It's growing fast. Jump in.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.